We also want to welcome our online viewers as well. We know that you may not have been able to join us in person, but that is okay. We want you to have your own family experience, and we have a chat person who can assist you as well. But some more again, trying to make sure, please make sure if you need CEUs to sign in, that is really, really important. Also make sure that you are doing your surveys at the end of the session. You can do them in the Whova app. There is a QR code. You can also do them here, or you can write them out and hand them to us. So again, as our room attendant said, please make sure that you are signing in and writing your name legibly. Those of you online, please make sure that you are still filling out that survey at the end. So if you are here for today's session titled From Trauma-Informed to Healing Centered, Encouraging Transition-Age Youth Through Counseling, Peer Support, and Psychiatry, you are in the right place. So welcome. And we're going to pass it over to Rob because unfortunately we don't have all of the bios. So he's going to introduce himself and his team.
Thank you. And thank you for being here, everybody. Good morning. My name is Rob Thurlow. I'm Director of Community-Based Services at LifeWorks. Just a quick snippet about me. I've been working at LifeWorks for 17 years, licensed clinical social worker. Our Community-Based Services program provides trauma-informed, community-based counseling, peer support, and psychiatric services to transition-age youth, age 16 to 26, with a history of trauma residing in Travis County. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I got my master's at UT School of Social Work sometime in the mid-90s, and I worked at Austin Child Guidance Center for many years before coming to LifeWorks. With me today are two esteemed colleagues, Stephanie, who is a family peer specialist, we'll talk more about what that is and how it's been so helpful for us at the agency. And also Eden is joining us as well, who is a former or current client of ours at LifeWorks. And so we want some youth voice participation on our panel today. So that is who we are. Stephanie? Okay. Eden, anything you want to say about yourself?
Sure. So I have been getting services at LifeWorks for, I think I'm 24 now, so I would think like 16, 17. And so now I'm on my way to become a mental health peer support specialist and work more closely with them as well as communities for recovery. So I am kind of like a client turned like activist, you could say. I guess that's the word for it. So yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, technology being what it is, I discovered when I arrived that our slide deck, for some reason, only 3 slides made it here. So I was prepared, got a hard copy here. So we're going to we're just going to do it on the fly here and kind of refer to that. So please bear with us as we do that. And what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about the journey that we've been going through at LifeWorks over the past, oh gosh, it's been 7, 8 years now, at least, I think. We've been working on multiple initiatives simultaneously, and that's really informed what we're doing in our community-based services program. Part of that, we've been engaged in a trauma-informed care initiative, just kind of learning more about what that is, what it looks like, how do you do that in an agency setting like ours? We've also had a youth voice initiative, which was a year-long initiative, a committee that was composed primarily of youth, current and former clients of ours who gave a lot of input about ways that youth can be more meaningfully incorporated into the services we provide, and also learning about healing-centered engagement, which is sort of like a trauma-informed care Mark II. So we'll talk a little bit about those things, and then we'll also we'll leave time at the end to open it up for questions from folks because we want to make sure there's plenty of time for that. And that's our basic plan for today. That sound okay? All right. Okay. So to start off, and I think most people now are fairly aware of trauma-informed care, but I want to make sure everybody's kind of has the same baseline info about it. When people ask, what is trauma-informed care, there are several tenets, I guess, to it that are really important to keep in mind. If an agency or an organization of any kind is trauma-informed, part of that means really understanding the impact of trauma and how that may affect people who are walking in your door. when you work at an organization for a long time, like many of us do, it becomes like wallpaper. We don't really see what our clients experience when they walk in the door for the first time. And there are a lot of ways in which our clients have experienced all kinds of trauma, sometimes, unfortunately, at the hands of agencies like ours and organizations like ours who are supposed to be helping, right? But because we haven't known that much historically about trauma and its impact on folks, we haven't always had that awareness in mind as we've made decisions. So understanding how trauma impacts folks who walk in the door and how we can mitigate that in some of the decisions we make in our programming. We also recognize that trauma affects everybody. It's not just our clients walking in the door who've experienced trauma. I like to say we're all walking wounded. We know that being born is traumatizing. So from that point forward, it's all downhill as far as trauma goes. We've all been there in some form or fashion, but the important thing is understanding the ways that it impacts our clients when they walk in the door, and understanding that what we might expect of them or one of them may be different than where they're at and what they're really ready for. We also want to make sure that we are trying to avoid re-traumatizing our clients by looking for ways, getting input from our clients, and making sure that we're looking for ways to, again, mitigate the potential impact of, we don't want them to walk in our door and be traumatized once again, right? One of the I think a helpful tool for kind of understanding trauma-informed care and healing-centered engagement is thinking of it in terms of the questions that tend to drive our conversations. And I think many of you have probably heard this before, are more kind of conventional diagnosis and pathology-based ways of looking at clients or looking at people in general tends to have a question embedded within it, which is, what's wrong with you, right? What's the diagnosis? What's the problem? What needs to change? What needs to be fixed? And when I say this, I'm not in any way trying to diminish the reality of mental illness and the importance of understanding diagnoses and treatment and all that. It's just understanding that we live in a problem-saturated culture. We're conditioned from birth to look for what's wrong in everything and everyone, including ourselves, right? And so trauma-informed care sidesteps the question, what's wrong with you, to ask, what happened to you? And that can help explain a lot in ourselves, our colleagues, our friends, our families, and our clients, the people who we serve. Because if you understand what someone's been through, the behavior that's showing up in your face makes more sense. It doesn't necessarily mean it's okay and that we just kind of let everything go, but it does mean we understand with more compassion. And I think all of us, if we knew each other's story, there'd be a lot of compassion in this room among complete strangers, because all of us have stories and all of us have been through trauma of some kind. And so just kind of changing the question from what's wrong with you to what happened to you can really make a difference there. All right. We're now going to talk about some of the core principles of trauma-informed care. And I'll turn this over to Stephanie.
Yeah, so some of the stuff that we'll be covering today over the core principles of trauma-informed care are things like safety, trustworthiness, and transparency, peer support, and then we have collaboration, mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice here that we've been providing at LifeWorks, and then definitely cultural, historical, and gender considerations, because that is definitely something to consider when working with people in general. So yeah, the first one would be safety. We want our clients to feel safe, not only emotionally or psychologically when we're working with them, but also giving them a physical space and what that looks like for them. It would be helpful while they're receiving care here at LifeWorks. Physical space is safe and mutually agreeable for both parties, for the service provider and the client. We also want to promote safety and privacy, and really highlighting the privacy part, because a lot of our clients may not have received that before by those receiving the services rather than the provider. So we always want to have our clients have a say where we meet, how we meet, and meeting them where they're at. Yeah, so the next core principle would be trustworthiness and transparency. Definitely something that service service providers would need to keep in mind is keeping agreements. Don't overstretch or overreach yourself if you know you can't commit, because that will negatively impact the clients that you're working with. Full disclosure with services, so there are no surprises. And so we don't re-traumatize the clients that we're working with. And then also, we want to give them the power of making the choices for themselves. We lay it all out there for them, and then they are able to choose what they want, when they want, and how they want things done. It just gives them autonomy in that way. And then we also have peer support, which is me. I have been doing peer support for a year, and peer support is someone with lived experiences. I'm able to share my story to establish like safety, hope, and it builds trust. And it promotes recovery and healing in a way that is relatable to the client, so they know I'm not full of it, that I have been in similar situations. I can understand and sort of grasp the things that are going through, and sharing my story will allow them to allow myself to have the credibility and be able to form healthy, platonic relationships that they may not have outside or have experienced. And then it's also just non-clinical emotional support. But yeah, and then
I'm going to go off script for a sec because I want to talk a little bit more about peer support and how it's been impactful for us at LifeWorks. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I came up in the 90s and kind of the way we were all trained back then. Peer support is a relatively new discipline. It's an emerging discipline. A lot of people have heard the phrase, but they've heard it in lots of different kinds of contexts. And so they often don't necessarily understand peer support in the way that we practice it at LifeWorks. So I just wanted to let you know kind of what we mean when we talk about peer support. Peer support is a discipline in which people who have lived experience being in recovery from mental health and or substance use are trained and certified to share their lived experience in their recovery journey with others as a way of engaging and supporting them in their own recovery. That sets them in a class in their own, because as Stephanie just mentioned, the rest of us clinical licensed people were full of it, and the clients know that, right? They know that because we've been to school, we have all this book knowledge, right? And we're not supposed to talk about our own lived experience. You can bet your bottom dollar almost any clinician you talk to or social worker you talk to has lived experience with mental health and or substance use, but our licensing boards discourage us from talking about those things with clients for good reason, because people have abused that privilege and used that information to move into the area of like dual relationships with clients, which we're never supposed to do. So those rules are there for good reason. What I'm so happy about is that there's now an emerging professional discipline with its own codes of ethics and guidelines and so forth that is for people who have lived experience and are trained to use that as a way of engaging and supporting others. I can tell you, I've been at LifeWorks for 17 years. Those of you who know about LifeWorks know that we like to take on big challenges. We just like to take on whatever it is and go for it. And we've done lots of really cool things over the years. But in my opinion, bringing peer support into LifeWorks is the single most important thing we've ever done. And I'm so proud to be part of a program that features peer support. I've learned so much about it. And Stephanie is not kidding when she talks about the credibility factor. Our peers have street cred that we don't have. And our clients, understandably, are reticent about engaging in formal services like counseling and psychiatry and that kind of thing, because our clients have almost all been systems involved, at least one system, CPS, foster care, juvenile justice, you name it. And they've usually been mandated to services they didn't want, that were provided in a way that was not client-centered or strengths-based. And that was often traumatizing for them. Right? So our mission in our program is to provide a corrective and healing experience. We want to reduce barriers as much as we can. We want peer support to be absolutely in there in the mix. What we've noticed is that our clients respond to our peers in a way they don't respond to the rest of us mere mortals. And once they have that relationship with the peer, then if the peer is seeing that there are mental health issues and or substance use issues that are beyond their scope, they can gently nudge them in the direction of other professionals that could help them. We do a lot of warm intros at LifeWorks. Instead of saying, I think you need a psychiatric evaluation from our nurse practitioner, they don't say that. They say, hey, I want you to meet my friend Judith. She's really nice. I think she could help us with some of the stuff we're talking about. Or instead of saying, you need counseling, hey, I want you to talk to my friend Tita. She's great. She's really friendly, that kind of thing. So that's the way we roll at LifeWorks. And it's really made a huge difference with our clients because they see themselves, this is what we want. We want them to feel seen and heard and understood for who they are, not just funneled through a system as a number, which often has been what they've been through before. So I just wanted to get a little sidebar to tell you why peer support is so important for us and our clients, and how thrilled I am to see that we have people like Stephanie and Eden who are kind of going through, they're taking steps in the direction of bringing that professionality out into the community, right? Stephanie was one of our ambassadors. And so she's taken steps along the way and yet lots of steps. And now she's working for us, which makes me so happy. And I share with my supervisor a couple weeks ago that part of the legacy I hope to leave behind at LifeWorks is that our peer support team is made up primarily, if not exclusively, by former LifeWorks clients. People who are doing the things that Stephanie and Eden are doing and bringing the good news forward in a way that our clients can really hear. So that's my little digression there. I just want to make sure y'all heard that. Jumping back into the core principles of trauma-informed care, I'll cover the last three: collaboration and mutuality. We really want to see our services for our clients as a partnership. Yes, there are some things we kind of have to do, but we try to be very transparent with them about what those things are. And then whenever we can, include them in the decision-making, make it as level a playing field as possible. We all know that just by virtue of the fact that we work at LifeWorks, we have a degree or a title or whatever position, that there's a power differential there. And our clients are keenly aware of that. And so what we want to do is try to reduce that as much as we can. And so I don't introduce myself to clients and say, hi, I'm Rob, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, blah, blah. They're not going to have any interest in that whatsoever. So we want to make it as collaborative and mutual as possible. We want to include them in decision-making as much as we possibly can. And then, like I said, offering warm intros whenever we can so that they see our staff as people first rather than positions, titles, degrees, licenses, that sort of thing. And empowerment, voice, and choice is another core principle of trauma-informed care. And by the way, if y'all are interested in learning more about trauma-informed care, we stole all of this from the SAMHSA website. SAMHSA, it's free and available to everybody, so we took advantage of it. So for those of you who are aware of SAMHSA, they have a great, I mean, my God, it's chock full of resources, more than you could ever read in a lifetime. So SAMHSA, the acronym is SAMHSA. I believe it stands for Substance Abuse Mental Health something authority, something like that. So it's a great resource. We really want our clients to feel like they are engaged in shared decision-making and that we're not the ones making the decisions for them or telling them what to do. This means that we sometimes have to do some internal work that's not easy to do. Stephanie can attest to this. She's had some clients make some very difficult decisions that she's been like, oh my God, there's a train wreck coming. I can see it coming, but it's not her job or our job to say, no, you cannot do that, or that's wrong. You have to do it this way. Don't we all learn best from the School of Hard Knocks? I don't know about you, but I didn't listen to much about what my parents said. I learned about it on my own, and I think a lot of us do. So we honor our clients by letting them make those mistakes, even if we can see the train wreck coming. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it does, and that's a necessary lesson that some of our youth go through. And so we want to honor that rather than feel like we have to jump in and save anybody. And then the last of the core principles of trauma-informed care, as Stephanie mentioned earlier, is cultural, historical, and gender issues. So trauma isn't just, I mean, trauma takes lots of different forms, but, and I'm waving this around, it still works when I Fortunately, it's a small room. I don't think it's going to be a problem. But we have to be aware of and move beyond cultural stereotypes that we hold in our heads about our clients. You know, they're problem kids, they can't do this, they always do that. That kind of language, we have to be very mindful, pay attention to that, and step aside from it. We also want to make sure that we are helping our clients connect with others and form their own community. We don't want them to be dependent just on LifeWorks or other organizations like us. We want them to connect with their own communities and the people that and the interests that they have. And we also want to make sure that we are recognizing and addressing historical trauma, which includes race trauma, gender-based trauma, you name it. There's a lot of it out there. Like I said, I came up in a time when we were still trained that our job was to create a neutral environment for our clients. And with the idea being that if it feels like a safe and a neutral space, our clients would bring in the material they wanted to work on. That may be true. And what I've learned as part of our ongoing DEI initiative, which we also have been doing at LifeWorks for some time now, is that if I just create a neutral environment, I absolutely can be inadvertently perpetuating harm because I represent what's happened in the past. And I've also become keenly aware that just by virtue of being an older white man with a whole lot of letters after my name, that alone is intimidating to a lot of people and clients. And so I have to make sure that I'm aware. I think of myself as just Rob, right? I'm just Rob, but not to the clients we serve and not to direct service staff and other programs or departments who may see me as, and people at my level as, some kind of, I don't know what, gods that they should be afraid of or whatever. We don't want that. So we want to be human first and really let them know who we are and what we're about, and not assume that creating a neutral environment is going to be a good thing. And that means we are the ones now that are bringing up things like ways in which systemic racism has impacted our clients, ways in which gender bias has impacted our clients, those kind of things. So it's no longer we sit back and let the client bring it to us. Of course, we do that to some degree, but when we know that that's in the mix, we're bringing it forward ourselves. So that's it's kind of a sea change in the profession of counseling and social work in that regard, because that was very different from the training that we received until fairly recently. So that's our little spiel about trauma-informed care. Like I said, all these principles and much, much more are available on the SAMHSA website. I want to go ahead and turn it over to Eden now to talk a little about youth voice considerations.
So now we're going to talk about how LifeWork uses youth voices like mine to shape and impact the how they help the youth. And one of the ways they do this is by the strategic initiative to authentically engage youth, implement youth-led efforts that shape the services and systems impacting their daily lives, and empower youth to engage in meaningfully with others in their community. And another way they do this is by offering employment opportunities. I had the privilege to be in a program that is called, well, they give you an employment specialist, and what they do is they set you up with someone that will help you set up that Indeed account or that Glassdoor account or whatever you need to help you find the job and what suits you. Because when you're coming like out of trauma or out of a bad situation, you may not even know like what looking for a job looks like. They even went as far as to help me find GED classes so I can have a GED so I can have better opportunities. Another way they do this is opportunities for former clients. They have impact specialists, like Rob had mentioned before, that these are people who are former LifeWorks clients, and they have a say in how services look for their clients. And they're really that voice to be like, okay, we didn't like this, so let's change it this way, or let's approach it that way. They have opportunities for current clients like myself, like for being at this conference and getting asked to speak at different things and just put my input into it. I feel very involved in my treatment and what's going on with me. And when I get my certification, I feel very confident that I will be able to help others like that as well. And another way that we also do this is by development, governance, and training. A consistent theme across the proposed recommendations is that the transformative power of authentic relationships. These recommendations build on complementary efforts across the organization to minimize power imbalances and to promote shared decision-making. Like Stephanie is someone that I work with closely, and I feel like I can talk to her about anything. I can be like, yeah, I do. I talk a lot. And I'm like, hey, like she'll be like, what do you want to talk about today? I'm like, okay, this happened and that happened. And, I'll circle back around to this and let me update you about what happened last week. It's like a whole, it's like talking to a friend that I know that gets it. And it's very important to me because I know when I was going through what I was going through, I didn't have that. I felt alone. So it's very important for me to have her to bounce ideas off of and what do you think about this? And, I don't like, oh, I'm not just gonna like sit there and listen to like everything she says. I'm like, oh, Stephanie said to do it this way, but she is a good voice of reason for me to like, you know, soundboard stuff off of, because you know, I'm not always gonna make the perfect or right decision, but it's good to have someone there to be like, hey, I went through this, like, and this is what worked for me. So
Thank you. We have a world-class peer support on the way. And that's what we love about this model. It's just so real. It's not a cerebral exercise. It's about bringing yourself into the work, meeting others where they really are and supporting them on what they want to work on rather than telling them what we think they need to do. And it's beautiful. So we're really excited about that. Where are we now? Oh, okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about healing-centered engagement, which I mentioned at the beginning. And am I doing all this? Okay. So healing-centered engagement is something that's emerged in the last few years. There's a guy named Sean Ginwright, I believe is how you say his name. He's got some videos and he's published some papers. He came up with this model based on working with youth that he was working with. And it has tenets as well. So I'll go over, there's 4 of them that we'll go over today. But one thing that's really important to remember, I think, is that what spurred Sean Ginwright to develop this model is in working with some of his youth. At least one of them, he said, this is what really spurred it. One of them said to him, I don't want to be known just as the worst thing that ever happened to me. That is a potential pitfall of trauma-informed care, because the question is what happened to you? But if we stay stuck there, or if the client stays stuck there, that can be limiting for them. And we don't want that for them. We want them to understand and we want to acknowledge what they've been through, absolutely. And the next step is, so what now? And so the 4 tenets of healing-centered engagement, which I think of as trauma-informed care Mark II, it's like the next step in that journey. The first one is healing-centered engagement is explicitly political rather than clinical. When I read that phrase, I felt like someone had just punched me in the gut. Like, what does this mean about my profession, my future, my career? But what he's saying, he isn't saying that there's no need for clinical services for people who have been through trauma. He's not saying that we're supposed to go in there and tell our clients who to vote for or what their positions on issues should be. That's not what he means. What he means is that trauma is not just individual, it's collective. And that means healing also needs to be both individual and collective. The collective part is what we've been leaving out all these years, decades. And so recognizing that, that there is a next step beyond just recognizing what your trauma is that you've been through, and recognizing that it's not just you. You're not an isolated individual, but you are connected to others and helping to connect you further. Healing-centered engagement is also culturally grounded and views healing as the restoration of identity. So our clients come from many different walks of life, many different identities, and they've often felt marginalized because of those identities. And what we want to do is help them to re-embrace those, to celebrate them, and then to find their own community where they can get support and connection with others outside of LifeWorks. Healing-centered engagement is asset-driven and focused on the well-being the clients want rather than the problems or symptoms that we want to suppress. Again, it's not the conventional medical model. It's strengths-based in a real way. It's not just hypothetically strengths-based. It really is. What are you interested in? What are your aspirations and goals? Who are the people you'd like to get more connected with? What are some of your interests? And then helping them find that. That's a really important part of healing. And also something that's often left out when we're talking about trauma, healing-centered engagement is for healers as well as clients receiving services, right? Because as I said earlier, all of us are walking wounded. We've all been through trauma of some kind or other. And when we're working in an environment where we're supporting others who are dealing with trauma, that has an impact on us too. And so just talking about and engaging in self-care is not enough. There's more to it than that. It has to be more robust than just self-care. There has to be more to it than Netflix and bubble baths, although there's a place for those things, but there needs to be more to it than that. And so agencies like ours need to be providing opportunities for that in a really tangible way. And one of the things I'm most proud of about LifeWorks is that when it comes to this, we really are trying to put our money where our mouth is, literally. Last year, For the first time ever, LifeWorks created what we're calling quarterly recharge days. Once a quarter, on a Friday or a Monday, the agency closes. And so everybody, all staff except emergency staff and residential staff who get a different benefit, gets a 3-day weekend once a quarter. And so even though we're, so go out and tell your organizations, but don't tell them I told you. I don't want a bunch of angry phone calls or emails. But we're a nonprofit, so it's not like it's affecting our bottom line the way it would a corporation or a for-profit business, but it does impact us because those are days that services aren't being provided, which means that services aren't being billed to funders. So there is a financial impact there, but it's limited. And what we found is that our staff have absolutely loved it. It's been one of the best things we've ever put in place as far as supporting our staff. And we're continuing it again this year. So I'm really happy. And that's just the kind of thing that organizations can decide to do. We did it. We've been through a whole year of it. The agency hasn't fallen down like a deck of cards, a house of cards. So we think it's workable and feasible. And so I hope that some of you will take that out into your agencies. And again, don't tell them I said that. Don't say so. Thank you. John Smith. My friend Mary. Thank you. So finally, with healing-centered engagement, the question changes once again. What's wrong with you? What happened to you? What's right with you in your community? Where and how do we want to get you plugged into the people that mean something to you? So trauma and healing both are individual, interpersonal, and collective. They operate simultaneously on all 3 levels all the time. And for us to be aware of that as providers is really, really important. Some of the healing happens in the relationships we try to establish with our clients. They've had so much attachment trauma that anything we can do to help them feel safe with us is, people often talk about, goals and client successes and that kind of thing. One thing I learned really early on in this program is that the way we measure success is very different than what you might ordinarily do, right? As a society, we are culturally conditioned across the board to aspire to certain things, right? Education, employment, buy a house, get married, have kids, all that stuff, get a car, all that, right? And there's absolutely a place for all that. And those are worthy goals and many people do aspire to them. However, when I hear from one of my staff that a client they're working with told them that they handled a conflict situation without coming to blows for the first time in their life, that to me, that's bigger than any diploma, any degree, any job, because that is the result of hard internal work that they have not had the opportunity to do until recently. And so when I hear that, I tear up every time because it's so beautiful to me to see that. And I do, she'll attest to that. I'm a softie. So anyway, that's why I think trauma-informed care and healing-centered engagement are so important. I want to tell you just a little bit about our program so that you kind of understand how we do this. And I will open the floor to questions from y'all. We have a team of community-based counselors who use a particular evidence-based model that helps our clients learn how to ground themselves and be mindful and centered before they go into the trauma processing work that they often come to us to do. We know that to just simply ask them what happened and to ask them questions about their life is not going to be in their best interest. They may not be ready for that, and they may not have the skills to handle the emotional stuff that comes up when it's being talked about. So one of the first orders of business is to help them get grounded. And that's often something that they're really looking for and hungry for. Then when they feel ready, our team at the client's pace begins exploring their trauma history as not just for its own sake, but as a way of helping them be able to handle triggers that come up in the future. They're more aware, okay, when this happens, I tend to have this reaction. I need to pay attention to this, that kind of thing. So it's an ongoing learning journey that all of us are really on too, if we're paying attention to ourselves and being honest about it. But with our clients in this way, we're really trying to help them be purposeful about it. We also have a team of community-based peer support specialists And I try to have a mix of mental health and substance use on the team, try to have a mix of different kinds of demographics and that kind of thing, because our clients respond, different clients respond to different people. Our clients have told us many, 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 many times over the years, we want providers who are like us, who are closer to our age, who look like us. And you know what? I'll hire a middle-aged, like 50-something peer support specialist, and they'll adore her. You can never know who a given client will respond to. And so I like having a variety on the team because I want our clients to have options. I think it's really important. And also it shows them that you can walk many different walks of life and still go through addiction or mental health issues and come out the other side and be in recovery and be stable in your recovery. I think, oh, and our psychiatric services are provided through a contract we have with Integral Care. There's a nurse practitioner, psychiatric nurse practitioner who comes over 2 days a week to meet with our clients, and she does psychiatric evaluations. She prescribes medication. We have a staff member on our end who helps our clients get set up with prescription assistance programs for those that need some support with the copays. And then they become Integral Care clients at that point. And so if they want longer term services after they wrap up with us, they can usually just shift over to Integral Care and continue getting those services from them. So that in a nutshell is what our program does. And our team, with the exception of our nurse practitioner, meets our clients pretty much anywhere the clients want to meet that is safe and mutually agreeable. And I underline safe and mutually agreeable because the ultimate person that makes the call on that is our staff. And that's important because, yes, we want to be client-centered and we want to meet the clients where they are. But we've had instances of a staff member walking into a client's home and seeing drug paraphernalia on the ground. And I said, if the police walk in the door, guess who's going to the pokey? You and the client both, because they're not going to know whose this is. And so you have to protect yourself. And that means saying, you know, let's go somewhere a little bit safer. There's a park right down the road, or hey, there's a library. Why don't we go over there? That kind of thing. So again, it's collaborative, but it also maintains that safety that's so important. It has to be within Travis County. The clients are all 16 to 26. Our program was designed to be a wraparound support program for our residential clients. We are engaged in Austin's initiative to end youth homelessness. And what we learned really quickly is that it's not enough to simply get a kiddo into an apartment. If they've never lived independently before, that may sound exciting to us. It can be terrifying to them. And they often will invite their street family in, which they're not supposed to do. Hijinks ensue, people get evicted. It's just not good. So what we want is for our services to be available to our youth as they are ready to transition into housing for the first time and to help them remain stably housed. So almost all of our referrals come from other LifeWorks programs with the end being to help them feel like they've got what they need, holding them up as they go through that very challenging transition. So that's what it looks like at LifeWorks right now. I want to see peer support embedded within the agency. I love the fact that we have a team, but I want to see peer supports eventually start to become, so each team, each program has at least one, plus there's a central team that has their own colleagues and their own peers. So this is a work in progress for us very much, but it's one of the most exciting things I think we've ever done. And I think that's all I have to say. Is there anything else you need to add? Anything I left out? Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We want to open it to questions. We imagine you may have a few. Yes.
So, my name is I wanted to know, as a peer support specialist, you see a lot, and also your work is more so related as a peer support as well. And with me, I wouldn't say like I'm family oriented, but like I'm very active in my family. So, you have different members in the family who will come to you, open up and tell you, personal things. But it's one way to have grown up with them, you've seen how they are, like you guys have a great relationship, but then it's different when they start opening up and tell you like different traumatic experiences and the way that they have lived their life. And now they're offering, they're asking you for help, but it's kind of hard because you're just like, you're straightforward. Now we're just like, whoa there, I know I shouldn't be straightforward because like I'm scared you might revert back to what you are, used to. How do you go about being, helping them? Because I'm like at a standstill right now.
Thank you. That's a great question. And I'm going to let Stephanie answer it. But before I do, I want to tell you that. Sorry. Stephanie is our first ever family peer specialist. When we started this initiative of getting our clients housed and supporting them, we learned through our data that roughly half, if not more, of our clients are actually either pregnant or parenting. And we had no idea that the percentage was that high. And the parents are our client. These are young adults who are learning, who are themselves in recovery, trying to get housed, into a lot of trauma, and they're trying to raise one of their little ones. And so we decided we wanted to bring someone on board who has lived experience doing exactly that. And that's what Stephanie is here for. She has walked the walk. She is a single mom herself. She has 4 kids. Yes. She's
No more.
She's done. But she understands what our clients have been through. So I just want to put that out there before Stephanie answers, because she's a really important part of our services in that way.
Can you repeat the question? It was, yeah.
So the question is, we're all professionals here,
Mhm.
and being that person where you have a family member or just a friend who comes to you and open up. I'm used to that, but I'm at a standstill right now because of these individuals. I've already have a great relationship with them. We're real close and all of that. But it's still when you have to set aside your personal relationship and open up this professional relationship with them without being too overbearing. How should I go about helping them, with their circumstances that they're going through?
Yeah, it's hard to. Oh,
Yeah, so it's hard to support someone in like a dual relationship. When I've had personal experiences like wanting to reach out to me, I understand that I am the person that wants to help, that wants to do, but it's okay to refer out. I think that that's important too, to know your options as a provider. But then also just taking a step back and letting them lead, or meeting them where they're at and letting them lead. Like it's okay to support them. That's what I was saying.
And that's one of the, that's something that's common to all the disciplines I'm sure are represented here, counseling, social work, et cetera, is that I think probably all of us who are in this field in some professional way have had family or friends come to us hoping for a little bit of informal counseling or something. And so we've had to learn how to, hold those boundaries. It's easier said than done sometimes, but it is important to do. Did that really answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my peer support specialist, we're this peer support specialist. So there is training for that, and then something that we go over again and again and again. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Especially when, like she said, she needs the trust of other family members, and they, everyone wants to help. So I just wanted to add that there is here's the family partner, certified family partner, and there are monthly calls. We hold monthly calls when we provide additional support and information for the family partner. It's very similar to the support that we do in the training. We have to do every 2 years.
Thank you.
And I'm also a social worker, and depending on the situation in the world I'm in, depends on what I'm in.
Thank you. And in that discipline, it means that you're working potentially with any and all family members that are interested in working with you?
So for the certified family partner, that's a long history, but mainly it's mainly for parents of minors. But we are moving into family support, right? Because we know as the transitional age have a 2-year-old condition. To help me along this path, we understand that transition age really for parents need a lot of support still.
Yeah.
So we are try to really work closely as family partners with peer support specialists to really work on how we make that transition and still remain peer support for the parent, whatever that looks like, but honor, of course, with the child and youth part. And a lot of times that's right, having that conversation and growing that relationship between the parent and the youth. Eventually, the goal is that they wouldn't need us anymore. They could, that's a lot of times it's part of it. But yes, in the long run, we do evolve that are related to that youth in that. It's up to the youth, right, to develop their treatment plan or wraparound on that's up to them. But we will always support the parents, or guardian, whoever over it as a support person.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Yes. When we were considering bringing a family peer support into LifeWorks, we were thinking about that. I think I'm not sure if it's called family peer support or what it's called, but it was initially designed to help parents whose children had mental health and or substance use issues. What we found with our population is that because the little ones are so little, they haven't had a chance, thank goodness, to have issues with mental health and or substance use. So we're really focusing on the youth client, the 16 to 26-year-old who is the parent. However, I think in other settings, like if we were working with families who had older kids, we definitely would need something like that to add on to our services. So thank you.
A lot of it is navigating that beginning part, like you just said, right? It's
Yeah.
figuring out, what is going on. And I'm sorry, I
Yes.
don't mean to overtake, but I really would want to clarify this and add that this is available for, because we talk about school supports, parent support specialists a lot. We're like, I wish they would come and take our training. I think it'd be helpful. So yeah, a lot of it is navigating that first beginning. I mean, my son was diagnosed with his first mental health disorder right before his 6th birthday. But I had already, because of family personal history, and child development specialist, I already kind of knew that, oh, he's a little bit different, even from the autism, he's a little bit different. So I kind of had that, head start, if you'll say. But a lot of the work we do is just navigating this beginning part. The difference between psychologists and psychiatrists, the difference between, LPC and LCSW, and just helping parents become informed so that they can make decisions about what path to take and what's the right, what's best for them.
Thank you.
And school stuff and all that other kind of thing.
I see that in our future.
We had a question over here. I was just going to ask, outside of Integral Care, do you collaborate with any other organizations that's related to the youth or peers that you guys support? For instance, do you guys do any like health screenings? And if you find that someone needs additional care, would you collaborate with another organization, like externally, or is everything kind of in-house?
Yes to both. We mostly it's referred out, but there have been instances, for example, trying to remember, I know that there have been times that we've brought dental clinics on site. I think we did some COVID testing on site for clients. It's not something that we do regularly, but when we see a need, we try to bring someone in because we know that a lot of our clients, they kind of know how to get to us. It's easier for them to come to us than to go to some trailer that's in the middle of, somewhere they don't know how to get to. So yes, we do. We need to do more, but we do some. Yes. Thank you.
Two questions. Thank you. I have 2 questions. I guess payment. Is it insurance? How are people affording this? And then my second question is the peer support. Is that one-on-one and is there groups as well?
Yes. Our services are primarily offered one-on-one. Before the pandemic, though, we did have some support groups that our peers were offering that were kind of themed based on what I call their superpowers, right? So we had a peer who loved art. And so she would just show up in kind of a drop drop-in center with her art stuff and just sit and just do art. And they would just gravitate over and they'd start talking. And that would be kind of how the support group would happen. And we've had different ways of doing that. The pandemic, of course, interrupted that. And now we're starting to talk about how are we going to get that restarted again. And your first question, oh, payment. Yes. All of the services in our program are free of charge. The only charge any of our clients would have would be if they were prescribed medication and they needed to pay for that. If they didn't have insurance that would cover it. But we do help them get connected with a prescription assistance program. So that helps offset that cost for them. Otherwise, it's all free. And that's thanks to funders like SAMHSA, St. David's, and Travis County and others who we're very grateful to.
Is there a wait list?
Yeah, well, it depends. It depends on a lot of things. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. The Great Resignation has impacted a lot of us in terms of staffing and just ability to attract and retain staff. And so because our turnover increased during the latter part of the pandemic, we've had a lot of clients who've had to be transferred to other people, which means that newer clients have had to wait a little bit longer to get into services. Whether or not we have a wait list really just depends on the volume of referrals at any given time, but we do try to get them connected to a peer as quickly as possible, even if just informally before they begin formal services. Yeah. What else? Have I sold you on peer support? I'm not getting any kickbacks from anybody. I really do like it. Hello.
Hi, on the peer support, in the counseling program, is it a complementary program or both? So like, would a typical client be doing both peer support and individual counseling with a licensed therapist? Or would they choose one pathway or the other? And then my second question is, you talked about wanting to incorporate it, peer support and other facets of LifeWorks Youth. Can you just talk a little bit about what that might look like, just to think about how other agencies might incorporate peer support into their work if they aren't doing counseling?
Sure thing. Yes, the answer to your first question is the clients decide that. If a client is interested in any of our services, we try to give them information about it. We try to arrange a warm introduction and then they decide. So we have some clients who engage only in one of our 3 services. LifeWorks is large. We have like 20 different programs at any given time, at least. So, and most of our clients are referred from other LifeWorks programs. So they're typically engaged in services in multiple programs at once. But in our program, they can do 1, 2, or 3, whatever, as long as if they're interested, that's great. And we have clients who have been, this is actually really, really cool. We were very surprised when we found out how long some of our clients were staying in counseling services with us. Now, we all know that it can be problematic for someone to be in treatment for too long. It can engender dependency and that kind of thing. But what we found was that because we try to provide a corrective and healing experience, and because we treat our clients in a strengths-based way, and we really include them as collaborative partners in the work, they want to stay in services with us. And because they've had so much trauma, so much disruption to their development, and they have so many things going on in their lives currently, the pace of that is a little slower than what we might think it should be. And so we're thrilled that we do not have to provide, we don't have limits to how long they can be in services with us, like some programs and services do. And we have clients who've been, several clients who've been in our counseling and peer services for 2 or more years, and they're working. I mean, they're doing the work. They're not just hanging out there on the periphery, they're engaged. And so we really love seeing that. Did I answer both questions?
And then just about what it might look like in other.
Oh, yeah. I have no idea because we haven't done it yet. And I haven't done any research to see how other organizations do it. My fantasy is that there would still be a peer team, because I think it's really important to be with your own people in terms of discipline and professional growth, but that they would be placed in different programs to work with those clients. That's just my off the cuff idea. It may be completely, I need to find out if anyone's tried it and if it's worked or not, but that might be what it looks like. Yeah. people come to LifeWorks all different ways. They see our building and walk in off the street. They hear about us. They get referred by any number of people, a school counselor, a doctor, I mean, anybody. So we're pretty well known and referrals come to us from all over the place. Our particular program works almost exclusively with existing LifeWorks clients who are referred by other programs. Yeah, sure. Hi, yes. She's gonna what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. So I work for the city of Austin, specifically in a community youth development grant with youth 10 to 18. So DFPS had told us that y'all had a grant through them or a contract through them to serve those younger kiddos. Is that still a contract that is active, and how do you get involved with that?
Yes, we have 3 counseling programs at LifeWorks. One of them is called, ours is community-based services, or CBS. We have another counseling program called Youth and Adult Counseling, or YAC, and it is a office-based program at all 3 of our sites. We have counselors that provide those services, and we are the Travis County grantee of DFPS. It provides free counseling for youth and their families who qualify up to the age of 17. Qualifying is actually really, really easy because there are 4 primary presenting issues. As long as the family has one of these 4, they'll qualify. And those 4 are truancy, delinquency, runaway behavior, and the 4th one, which is the catch-all, family conflict. Nobody ever calls us. It's not in family conflict. They would not be calling us. So for that reason, we're able to provide services to a lot of youth and families who otherwise would not be able to do that. And we do cross-refer between our programs. So every so often, YAC, Youth and Adult Counseling, will refer a client to us and vice versa. So we try to work together as much as we can to make sure the client's best interest is being met. For example, sometimes, say YAC has a sliding fee scale and they bill for public and private insurance, and they have the grant that you just mentioned. If for some reason a youth comes into YAC and they don't qualify for that grant and they don't have enough money or insurance, sometimes if they qualify, they'll be referred over to our program. So we do try to do that as much as we can to make sure that the clients are getting the services that they're looking for. No. Would you like us to? Yeah. We could do that. Oh, thank you. We'll definitely.
Does LifeWorks, is it just here in Austin or is it in other places? I'm from Arlington, Texas. So, and I'm peer support, but I have had people or family members discuss their children having problems, and I deal with adults. So I don't have a reference to refer. So is LifeWorks nationwide, or is it just here in Austin?
Just Austin, yeah.
Just Austin.
Yeah.
And do you have resources where maybe virtual resources for people that from Arlington? A lot of people that I work with, they do a lot of things on computers. My clients, they're computer kids or adults, but they're asking me, do you have virtual this? Do you have virtual that? Do you have, and so I know virtual can reach all over. So do you all have a program that's virtual for youth that don't live in Austin?
Well, our funders unfortunately stipulate that our clients have to be Travis County residents. When the pandemic arrived, like many providers, we had to turn on a dime and figure out how to provide our services virtually, and we did do that. But we can't serve clients who live outside of Travis County, and that's purely a funder thing. So I'm sorry.
Forgive me if you've already answered this. I heard family support. What are the other genres of support that are offered?
Are there others?
Yeah, so so she was asking what other genres of support that we offer at LifeWorks through peer support. So myself, I specifically only work with families, which is so fun and non-stressful. But then we also have a team of peers with different walks of life. So we offer substance abuse recovery, people that are doing that journey. We also have people who are working with individuals only, but also mental health track based. So if they're having mental health issues or just trying to, let's say, yeah, just challenges. And then so that peer support would step in as well. I think when they do the intake, we could kind of gauge what track that they're, or yeah, challenges that they're facing and get paired up with the peer support that way. So there's 3 different mental health, substance, and then family.
Thank you.
I see we've got about 10 minutes left, so we got plenty of time for other questions. Yeah.
Anything with criminal justice, like kids who have been within the system? Is there any peer support who can? I'm with juvenile justice, so
What was the first part of what you said?
like peer support that have like involvement with the criminal justice system.
You mean where there are peers actually working in the system?
Well, or just someone who's experienced being in that system and the struggle
Oh, I hear
to
what
get
you're
out of the
saying. Yeah, yeah.
system and make a change, because there's so many challenges that those individuals face. And definitely
Yeah.
they look at me, my clients, and they're like, yeah. So yeah, anything like that over there?
Yeah, I think that there are various of us on the peer team that have experiences with juvenile justice. And I would love to see more of a pipeline, like working directly with kiddos coming out of the that system specifically. So that would be like my dream and hope, is to really pipeline straight to us at LifeWorks. But yeah, there our team of peer supports just have a varied of just, I know one of our peer support, Danny, that's one of the systems that he went through. So I think that if a client did come with that, like wanting to overcome that barrier, he would be like paired with him specifically. So there are, yeah, we've been through some stuff. Yeah.
I'm just very curious, what interested you in being a spokesperson or becoming an advocate? I don't want to touch the mic, I'm just saying. Okay. What interested you in becoming a peer support? I'm calling you a peer support person already. See, you're getting there.
Yeah.
But just supporting your peers and being interested in standing up in front of a bunch of people you don't know to talk about the importance of including youth voice. Why is that so important, and why is it so important to you?
So when I was going through what I was going through, so I did suffer addiction as a teen, and I am also a teen mom. So when I was going through what I was going through, I didn't have anybody who went through what I went through, who looked like me, who was like, hey, I got out of this, and this is how you can change your life. So my life, well, of course I did the work to change, but along the way I had peer support specialists and counselors and stuff, and everybody was really positive and believed in me. Like even when I got out of treatment, I had people, like I would go down to Ben White by the Walmart where I was used to be homeless, and I would help people find resources. If they needed tampons, I'm like, girl, what you need? Like, I got you, because I know what this is like. And then I heard about peer support, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I think this is what I'm meant to do. And I have a history with LifeWorks, and they have helped me so much, as well as like others. They've helped me get housing. They've helped me get my GED and just get my life back on track and rebuild, because I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I was like, I don't know how do I fix this? You know, I know I don't want to do this anymore, but how do I fix this? And they were really that guiding force to help me fix it. And my ultimate goal is just to help others that are like me, especially young women that come from where I come from, because to me, it was like, oh, you're always going to struggle. It's never like, oh, you're going to overcome this, especially with me being a young mom. It was very hard for me to navigate. Oh, I want to go back to school. I want to do this. I want to do that. But for me, it's even like be introduced to this field to where like I can do all that and help others and get paid and just build this life for myself. It's a very beautiful thing to me, and I'm very passionate about it. So yeah.
Yes. I've noticed being a hiring manager for our peer team that many times, and Steph, many times the people who apply for our peer positions They haven't yet gone through the training and certification, but they're what I call Wizard of Oz peers. They've already been doing it. They just don't have the piece of paper to show that they've done it. And so all that they need is that guidance, and they're already almost there. They just need a little bit of polishing, and they're a professional. So we see this a lot, and I love seeing that. I just want to see our clients go through these various pipelines. Like I think our time is up. I think we have to stop. Oh,
We have a question from one of the virtual attendees.
okay.
The question is, how do peer support specialists deal with other professionals who do not take their role as seriously? And have they dealt with this at LifeWorks before?
Education. Education is key. And it's many conversations with other service providers, what we are not. We are not case managers. We are not counselors. We are peer support. Yes, not a taxi service. We're not psychologists. We don't diagnose. It's a lot of what we're not. That seemed more helpful than telling them what we are. Yeah, that was one of the challenges I had when I first started at LifeWorks, was to really emphasize just what we're not and what we provide, and just having many conversations. And now I feel like it's a little better. No, I think it's getting there. It's getting there, but it is a slow process. Be patient with it, especially if you're starting out. I know specifically for me, being the first family peer support, that was the difference. And yeah, it's just educating. I know it's rough to be that person, to kind of just set the tone of, what it is I'm capable of, but also what I'm not capable of and what's outside of my scope. But yeah, that's how I've dealt with that.
Has the popcorn stopped popping? Well, I think we're almost out of time. And so I just want to thank all of you for being here. It's great to see you, and also to hear all your great questions. Please go out and spread the word about trauma-informed care and about healing centered engagement. Oh, one more. Yes. Go for it.
What are your recommendations for folks who would like to start up something like this in Arlington, or for people who are looking at criminal justice or whatever the case may be? What recommendations do you have?
Wow. One of the hardest things, I think, and I know you could attest to this too, is to be the only one in your organization would be really hard. So I think finding an advocate, someone in the community there who knows about peer support, who can help educate you and by extension the organization about, again, like Stephanie was saying, what it is and what it isn't, would be really helpful. We hired one peer many years ago before we really knew what we were doing, and we put her in one of our counseling programs, and she felt completely like a fish out of water. Didn't really feel like she knew what she was supposed to be doing. We didn't know either, so it was really kind of a hit and miss kind of thing. But I think having somebody that also having the ear of someone in the organization who has the ability to make decisions, whether it's about budgetary decisions or starting programming, would be really important too. Because if you bring a peer in, that person needs to feel like they've got some support, that someone's got their back, especially because it is an emerging discipline. A lot of people, they don't know what it is. They want it to be a case manager or a taxi service and that kind of thing. So someone that can really help the organization learn about peer support is really critical. Did you create the framework for that? Kind of, sort of. It's been really just kind of making it up as we go, really. There was no master plan. We just knew we wanted to get more peers in, and we've been making mistakes. We're good at making mistakes at LifeWorks. And I have 5 minutes, I've been told. So okay, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. That was a good question. Any?
Oh, and I think also just elevating like what your youth want, like in your area, and asking them, what do you want this program to look like? Starting a youth board is a great place to start. You can, but it's probably going to fail. You would want to get their input on any services that you're wanting to provide to the community, because it's pertaining them specifically. So that's something that I would recommend people who are wanting to build any program that's offered to youth and young adults, is asking them what they want it to look like, how they want it to be run, and just get their input, because I think that's valuable too.
I am not. And I always tell my peers with a great apology, I'm so sorry, I can't be that, but I'll do my best. But we just recently hired someone who is going to become shortly a peer supervisor who can then supervise them towards their own certification. So that's something we had one for a while, then we lost it. We finally filled that position. And that's important for an organization to have too, because otherwise they have to find somebody outside the organization and usually pay them. And that can be really prohibitive at the pay that peers typically get, so that's a good question. Thank you. Okay, I think we're going to stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob, Stephanie, and Eden for coming in. There's a lot of good information. Definitely peer support is like sliced bread. I'm the family peer, so I understand it. And I work in the peer unit at HHSC. So it is it's the best thing. I won't even say the next best thing. It is the best thing. But just want to do some last minute housekeeping things. Please make sure that you guys fill out your survey. There's 2 ways to do it. You can do it on your Hoover app, or you can also go look at the back doors. We have the QR code. So please make sure you do that. Want to also thank you to Methodist Healthcare Ministries for sponsoring this session. Also, if you complete the survey, you also have a possibility of winning a $25 gift card. So again, and we want to know how we're doing. And again, for those of you who need CEUs, please make sure if you did not sign in on the sign-in sheet, because I think there's a couple of people that didn't. And again, the CEUs are inside of the after